Hi everyone, it's Linda from Flash Fiction Mystery Quilt. Today we're going to bring you a baby toddler fabric book. This is an absolutely great way to use up scraps, and what you end up with is a fabulous book for a niece, a nephew, a grandchild. And it probably took me a total of an hour and 30 minutes to make this start to finish. Isn't it the greatest? Such a cute little book. So let's get with the video and I'm going to show you how to make this.
Welcome to Flash Fiction Mystery Quilt. Hi, I'm Linda Smith. And I'm Sue Ellen Jennings.
Hi everyone, so today we're going to make a quick and easy baby book or toddler fabric book for a gift. This happens to be for my grandson. I sew with scraps and I keep every scrap of fabric I ever have sewn with and made a quilt with. And so my plan for this little book that I'm going to make him for his first birthday is I am going to cut out pieces of scraps like I have, and I'm going to label his book with a fabric pen. I don't know if y'all can see that. There you go. And then I cut out little sayings, and I'm going to be just really fast appliquing these to each page of my book because it's a camping book. And there's fishing and acorns and butterflies and pretty flowers and cabins and campers and a river. So I've just cut out scraps of fabric to make this. If you want, you can just use a fabric pen and color on each page and use a white background. I had a scrap of green, and in full disclosure, I know that I said that this should measure 17.5 inches wide for the outer pages, and the inner pages would measure 16.5. This isn't that wide. So I ended up taking 2 inches off of all of the numbers that I gave you, and I'm just going to be cutting these strips. These are my 2 bigger strips. And I'm going to get them all cut up like I have my little pieces I'm going to applique on. And then I'm going to cut my batting. I also use scrap batting for this as well. It's a good way to use up your pieces of material that you have left over. Anyway, I'm going to get all this cut up and we're going to come back and we're going to put together a really quick and easy little personalized baby book. So I've cut out my, let's see, 6 pieces of fabric, the 2 smaller sizes and the 2 bigger sizes, and now I just need to cut out my batting. Again, this is a scrap piece of batting from making a quilt, and to cut it, all you're going to have to do is line up on a piece that you have cut. You'll need 1 piece of batting for every 2 pieces of your actual book fabric. And so I don't need to square anything. I just line up on this piece of fabric that I have already properly cut. So it makes it a really fast to cut your 3 pieces of batting that you're going to need. It would help if your rotary cutter worked, but other than that, that's 1 piece, and so it goes with this one. So we got 1, 2, and that's a set and a piece of batting. And then I'm just going to repeat this for my sets, because each one of these has 2. And this is the book back, it's bigger. So anyway, I'm going to lay this out and cut all of my batting, and I'll be right back. So I have everything cut out now. 2 pieces for the front and back, and then a piece of batting, 2 pieces of fabric, and a piece of batting for inside pages 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 2 pieces here for 5 and 6, 7 and 8, and a piece of batting. And then of course I'm doing applique. You can do whatever you want to. And by applique, I am literally just going to sew squares around these. I'm not doing anything fancy or anything hard at all. But the next step is going to be finding the center of our book. So you just take one of your pieces, fold it in the center. You can finger press it or take it over to your iron, which is what I am going to do. And I'm going to press it really quickly to give me a center line, like so. That center line will be how I know where I want things to be. So if this is the front of my book, and it will lay like this. So this is going to be my first, and keep in mind these things lay backwards, so you want to be careful that you're putting the pieces where you want them. So this is going to be where it's going to be Henry's camping book and Home is in the Woods. Now this is a 1-year-old, so y'all, I'm just going to pin. He's not going to care. His mom and dad are just going to go through this little book with him, and he can play with it and tear it up and chew on it and whatever he wants to do, because it's 100% safe. Now if this is my front, then this is the back of the book. So if you have something special you want on the back of your book, then be sure that you realize that where your front is here, your back is going to be over here. And I am thinking I am just going to put my little log cabin there. And it also helps you when you have your center line so that you can get these sort of in the middle. I'm not measuring, I don't care. I just am going to pop a pin in and move on to my other pages. Now, the front and back are the 2 that you really need to know what you're putting there. If yours is random like mine, the rest of the blocks or the applique pieces don't matter, but the front and back does. So now my front and back of the book is going to look like this. Henry's camping book, Home is in the Woods, and the back is the little log cabin. The page, inside page for this, or the inside piece I should say, I'm going to repeat the same process for the inside of this. Your batting will go in between this, but for now all I need is a pressed center mark so that I know right where it is, and then I can continue on adding my applique pieces so that I can just take them over to my sewing machine and one after the other add them on and just sew them down real quickly. Now you can use Flexifuse fusible webbing if you want to behind there to stick them on, or one of the permanent fusible webbings, and then you don't have to sew around them at all. It really just doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that whatever you're doing is as easy as possible for you. I just happen to like sewing squares, so I'm going to be fine with that. And these are going right here. I'm going to continue to pin on all of my little pieces of scraps that I cut into squares on Henry's camping book, and I will be back when I have them all pinned on. So I've moved everything over to my sewing machine. I have everything pinned on the way I want it. And now I've got a scrap piece of fabric and I'm just testing my zigzag stitch just to see if it looks the way I want it to look. And that's what it looks like. And that's what I'm going to use. So it is just my basic zigzag stitch. I am not putting the batting on the one pieces. I am just sewing these blocks on. Really quickly, moving through these. I do have a brown thread in my machine just to make it look cuter. When you're doing a zigzag stitch, make sure that you watch your needle placement so that at least half of the stitches are going on your background fabric and half of the stitches are going on the applique fabric. And let's zoom in here so you can see, and we'll start sewing these on. When you get close to the end of the corner, lift your presser foot, pivot, making sure again that technically you should start with the needle on the background, but mine ended perfectly for a stitch here, so that's what I'm going with. Before I cut all this fabric, I used Mary Ellen's Best Press on all of these pieces to stiffen them up and make them really easy to work with, and I highly recommend doing that to pre-spray all of your fabrics so that they are just super easy to work with and not all floppy, I guess. So, as you can see, I've already finished one, and that didn't take any time at all. I have 10 more to go. And I'm going to hold this up so you can see it. And that's what we have. It's just that simple. Just that fast and simple. But it keeps the edges, a zigzag stitch keeps the edges from fraying, protects the little one from eating threads, and it's just a good all-around stitch for this simple, fast baby toddler fabric book. I'm going to go ahead and sew all of mine. Isn't that the cutest? What a great book this is going to be. This particular page of the book is the cover page, and so I have two applique pieces on here, one with the title that I used fabric pins on, and one with just a little phrase that says home is in the woods. And so I am sewing them on separately and getting to a corner here. Finally, I got it. Okay, so I've made it right, I'm going to lift my foot up so maybe you can see better, right almost to the very corner. And so now that's where I slow down really slow and take just a couple of more stitches to where I ended right on the corner, and then I'm going to flip it around and start again. This makes for pretty corners like this, there we go, and like that down there. If you try to back up or if you go over too far, you don't have, your corners are not quite so pretty in appliquing. And even though I'm sewing this really fast, I wanted pretty corners. So I am using, when you get done sewing these, if you chose to make this like this, be sure to press it, because applique will sort of pull up your fabric, and you want to press each block really well so that when you put your book together, it isn't too small in one area or pulled in any way at all. So all of my book pieces, pages, have been pressed, and they're all nice and flat. And now you can either use Elmer's glue, a fabric glue stick, or 505 temporary adhesive. And all we want to do is flip over. This is my front page, so I'm going to start with it. Flip it over, and we're going to put a little glue on here to hold on our backing, our batting. And we're doing that because I don't like to baste. I'm not a baster. So, if you're a baster, and you enjoy basting, then you can just baste all the way around this. That's not my style. A quick and easy kind of sewing girl. So, and then you just want to get this on. And that is the only piece of batting for this page. It's going to have this, and you're going to place right sides together. So this will go, and make sure that your items are the right side up. So my deer's standing right, my print is standing right. Because when you go to flip this, if you had this upside down, your pages would be upside down. So we're simply going to lay this on top, and this one's ready to sew together. Now I'm going to do my next pages the exact same way. Go to the machine, and we are going to sew around this entire block. And we're going to leave an opening to turn it, about a 2 to 3 inch opening to turn it right here. And then we're going to continue all around until we have sewn 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around, except for our opening. Okay, here we are back at the machine, and remember I said we were going to start and stop and leave an opening about 2 or 3 inches. And to close that opening, once we get done, all you have to do is just either whip stitch it or sew right next to the edge, but we'll get to that. Now, again, if you have a little piece of white sticking out, don't worry about it. We are sewing 1/4 inch seam here, and we're not going to worry about all those little details. I am going to do this though. I'm going to start where I want to start my opening. There. Okay, and I'm going to lock this stitch because there's going to be some pressure when I go to turn this book. And I haven't changed a thing. I have my right sides together with all my writing correct. So I'm sorry, I hit the camera. I could have taken one more stitch, and I'm going to take it. There. And I'm just pivoting, leaving my needle down and pivoting. Nope, not far enough. Now, I have to remember that I want to stop here and leave this 3 inch opening. So when I get to where I can see I started right here, and I don't know if y'all can see that because it is brown thread on dark green fabric, but anyway, it is right there where my fingernail is. And so I am going to stop here and lock stitch, and that leaves my opening. So now this book page is ready to be turned and all sewn with 1/4 inch. And what we're going to do is when we're going to take our scissors and we're going to trim each corner, not hitting the threads. So you want to be careful when you trim. And that just takes some of the bulk out of it, so that when you turn it, you get a little bit crisper of a corner. And just do that for all 4 corners of every book page. I'm going to sew my other 2 pages that I have, and then we're going to come back and flip these inside outwards and sew each page closed, and then we can put the book together. Yay! All right, I'm going to get these sewn and I'll be right back. Turn these right side inwards, and you want to reach between the 2 pieces of fabric like that, not between the batting and fabric. So you're reaching between the 2 pieces of fabric, and you're going to work really hard and turn this right side inwards. Go to a corner and pull a corner through first, and then just sort of work your way around, pulling everything through. And it can get to be quite full in your little hole that you left, but that's okay. Just keep working with it and you'll get it turned. I always stick my fingernail in there and push it through. Now I've got 2 corners through, and so now I'm going to move to pull the rest of this through, and I'm going to stick my hand back in my hole just as soon as I can find my hole. There it is. And I'm going to reach back up in here and pull all of this through this same space. And the more you get through, the easier it comes. It's just really tight when you first get started because you're trying to put so much batting and stuff through this little hole. Of course, you can make your hole bigger if you would like to. If you don't enjoy turning fabric, you certainly can do that. I'm going to go up to this corner and go ahead and pull it through now that I've got the majority of the other one pulled through. There it is. And I just have one more corner to pull through, and there. And then I have to go through, because as you see, this is not out. So you got to go through, and you can use any pointed object. If you have a purple thing, that's the great thing to use. But I managed to lose my purple thing to push things through. But anyway, so I'm going to go back through my hole, and I'm going to go to each corner, and I am going to push that corner out with this little blue thing I have to where I get it as straight as possible. And that's going to take a minute of work. Just be patient with yourself. And I'm going to come back this way and pull it up this way as well so that I have more of the corner areas out. And as I do this, I'm just rolling this seam with my fingers to get it to work on laying down flatter. And now I know I've got this, all these corners really have to have some work done on them because they are quite puffed out. But as you can see, with just a little bit of work, there it is. It's really nice now, nice corner. And I'm going to go to this one and do the same thing. And there's another really nice corner. And over here. And we're going to repeat this same process on each of these pieces. And once we get our corners punched out the way we want them, we're going to take the fabric with our fingers and we're going to roll it so that the seam is right there. But get all your corners out first as you work through this. And it's just a little process, but I actually enjoy this as part of this bookmaking. It's cathartic to punch on fabric and not with a seam ripper. So I just need to get this one out a little bit more, and I will have that. Now, I'm going to get my sides all lined up and corners rolled like this. And the edges rolled over here as well. Just rolling them in my fingers, flattening them out. Alright, now once you get that done, it's time to close up this seam. And you're just going to fold it over using the same 1/4 of an inch seam allowance that you used when you put the book to pieces, pages, whatever, together. And so that's a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sew right on this very edge to close this. Or you can hand stitch it and whip stitch it out. I'm going to sew right on the very edge. And I'm just going to, I got to find out where I need to start, which is right here. There it is. I'm going to drop my needle, check it, and make sure I'm right on the edge. I could come over just a hair more. There. Okay. And then we're going to just close this book page up, and then we'll go work on another book page until you have them all closed up. I need to know where this one ends. Right there. And then we can put this book together. Now, if you want to, you most certainly can sew like a, I don't know, about an inch or half, for my book, or 1/2 inch all the way around of top stitching. I'm not going to do that. But, ooh, sorry. But you certainly can, and this is what it looks like closed up. As you can see, I've just sewn that seam shut. And because this is going to be in the fold where the book is sewn, the pages are sewn together, it's not very noticeable at all, just to not whip stitch it and just sew it. So that is my front page completely done. I will press it before I put my book together. I'll press all these seams really nice and flat. So I've got it lined up where I want it. I am just going to drop my needle, and I'm going to sew up here, and then I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to sew right through the middle of it. Take your time, especially if your machine is not a heavy duty or an industrial model. It will sew through this. And most likely, if it doesn't, you can help with using a hand wheel. But just sew through it carefully, and you will have a beautiful baby book. Let me back stitch here. And I've been through this off-camera seam now. I think I've sewn it, and you can see it's quite thick. I've sewn it like 4, maybe 5 times to make sure that this book stays together and it never comes apart. But here is Henry's camping book, Home in the Woods, and it looks like this. We got deers and fishing and rivers and belief nature and bears and campers and just some things you see out in nature, butterflies, acorns, and we have some foxes, and it says log on to nature there. A flower, a deer, and the back of the book with the sleepy cabin on it. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as we've enjoyed making it and sharing it with you. We hope to see you on our next video, and happy quilting and crafting. Bye, ladies.